Education. When I say the word education, what do you think? I think about school, college, books, reading, memorizing, studying. But there are all types of education. There's the education you get from life. There's the education you get from when you're betrayed by your best friend. There's the education you get by admiring certain people, by emulating certain people, by watching what they do. There's the education you get by watching people who do what you don't want to do, who suffer consequences of doing what we consider wrong in our society by our laws. There's more, much more to education than just going to school. And I think about school, and I'm for education. I'm not much for formal education past learning how to read, write, add, and subtract. And now, I guess really you don't even have to know how to add and subtract because we have calculators. And writing is becoming a thing of the past. They don't teach cursive in school anymore, although they still teach printing. What they teach us in school basically is memorization. I heard someone say the other day that we have, each of us possess one of the most magnificent pieces of, we'll say, equipment that exists on our planet today. And no, it's not your cell phone. It's your body, your mind, your being. But yet, are we taught in school anything about that? Quite the contrary. I'm trying to remember if they taught us anything about health in school. If they did, if I memorized it, I have forgotten it by now. I believe we had some classes on nutrition, but it must not be working very well because look at the unhealthy society we live in, at least here in the West, where obesity has run rampant. Physical activity is a very small part of school, unless you get involved in some sports, which is extracurricular activity, and you can't do that unless you keep your grades up. Now, it's my belief, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we are physical, spiritual, and emotional beings. But in school, we really just we have PE. But that's not even emphasized now as it used to be. We only deal with the mind in school, and we deal with the mind in a way that just teaches it to memorize. How much do you remember that you were taught in junior high, freshman year of school? Unless you continue to pursue one of those subjects, I'll guarantee you you've probably forgotten about 95 or 98% of it. Unless you use it, you lose it. It's an old saying which is very true. I flunked English in high school, and later I went on to have an English school in Latin America. I relearned and actually learned much more than I ever did in school. Did it help me in school what I learned? Possibly slightly. I remembered a little bit of it. But I had to go back and restudy or study again about verbs, pronouns, adjectives, the different tenses, future, future present, future progressive. I could be wrong now because I've forgotten again. But I relearned and learned more when I started teaching English in Latin America. I opened a school, and I was very good at it. That's been about 12 or 13 years. I've forgotten it all because I haven't used it. It's a memorization type learning. Now, why don't they teach us how our body works in school? Why don't they teach us how our mind works? Why don't they teach us and emphasize more strongly on the value of the type of food we put in our bodies? Why don't they teach us how to use our mind for something other than memorization? Why don't we teach kids how to create with their mind, how to use their imagination to create the future they desire? But as far as I know, it's not taught. It's not taught. We are taught memorization. And one of the things they told my father, they told me, and they told my children was, if you don't graduate from high school, you'll never get a good job. As if a job is the only thing there is to look forward to, or the only reason you're learning all this information. Information is constantly coming out, and information changes. What's true today and what works today may not work tomorrow. What is the best idea today may not be the best idea tomorrow. We discover new things all the time. So what the students have memorized 10 years ago may be irrelevant today. We need to find a way to expand our minds, to expand the minds of our children, to teach our children how to use their minds, to imagine the future they desire, and to use constructive action to achieve that future. But back to what they told me, and they're still telling the same things. And they believe this. I don't believe there's any bad intentions about it, but that if you don't get that high school diploma, you won't get a good job. How many people have come here to the United States, can't speak the language, they don't have a diploma, but have become millionaires? Now, if you present that information, that fact, to teachers or people who work in the educational system, they'll tell you that they are exceptions, indicating that you aren't an exception, that you can't be an exception to the rule. What is that but dampening your enthusiasm? And the problem with that is children hear this during the impression period, which is like from 0 to age 7 or 8. And we've been programmed with this for hundreds of years, programmed to be workers, worker bees, to do everything, do the same thing everyone else does. And if you step out of line, if you don't comply with what they tell you is the right and the best thing for you to do, then you're considered a loser, a dropout. Well, guess what? I'm a dropout. I won't say it on that other thing, but I'm considered that, or I was considered that, because I quit school. My father quit school. He worked for McDonnell Douglas. He helped build the space shuttle, what was that jet? He worked on the fighter jets. He helped build the fighter jets, and whatever else that the machinists built during the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and maybe the early 90s. How did he do that? Dropping out of high school. He managed to get a good job. Now, my father got many awards, or several awards, during the time he worked, and he could have advanced, but he didn't. Now, did he not advance because he was told all his life that he was not quite up to par because he didn't graduate from high school? Because that's what he believed. He didn't have the consciousness of that. My mother graduated from high school. She worked at Monsanto, which was a good job. I think my mother graduated. I never asked her. Yes, I saw the photo. Okay. But she could have risen up in the company also, but she didn't. Now, whether she didn't rise because she believed or didn't believe she could, it all originates in the mind. Maybe they were happy with what they were doing. They didn't want to rise in the company. Maybe I'm just different. My brother went to work for the same company as my mother did. Great jobs, great company, great benefits. One of the best jobs in the St. Louis area. But back to the part about the teachers tell you, and they're still telling this, that if you don't graduate, you will never get a good job. Maybe they don't want a good job. I've only worked for someone else a couple times in my life. I've been self-employed and entrepreneur, some people like to call it, since 1985. I earn more money than the teachers at the schools who told me that I would never have a good job, basically telling me in an underlying way that you're never going to amount to anything. You're not going to make it in life if you don't do what I tell you. If you don't do what we all know is the right thing to do, and that is graduate from high school. Now, so I didn't finish my formal education, and yet I had friends that went to college and I make more money than they make. And isn't it the point of education? At least I was told that it was. And now, I don't know if I'm happier than those people, but I feel pretty happy, fulfilled, and content. I could go right now and travel anywhere in the world I want to and stay there a couple weeks. My business would be run by my son, Henry, and my other sons. It's a family business. I've incorporated it into an LLP. I didn't learn that in school. I did that on my own. I educated myself. And I'm a firm believer in education, and I believe we should constantly be educating ourselves. I've been educating myself pretty rigorously since I was about 30 years old, although I was getting a life education before that. From the time I quit school when I was 15, I went to work and I learned skilled trades. I have many different skilled trades, although I chose painting as my profession of expertise. I can do many other things, and I can do many other things well. I've learned that through life. And at the moment in the U.S. and the West, we have a shortage of skilled laborers. So what I do and what I can do, should I choose to do something other than painting, which I do sometimes if clients need that, is a valuable asset for myself. Now, had I listened to the people in school and did what they said I should do, I would not have these skilled trades. And that was what I was drawn to. Not everybody is for sitting in a class 8 hours a day and taking in a bunch of information. Not everyone is like that. Some people are. And for some trades or some professions, that's good. But we put everybody in a box, and we try to make everybody conform. And if you don't follow that conformity, then you're considered a rebel, like I was. Quit school, riding motorcycles, Harley-Davidson party and all that. I was considered a rebel. Now, did I learn from that? Of course I did. Life has a way of teaching you lessons. I learned what was good, and I learned what was bad as far as the future of my life. And I continue to learn and educate myself today. One of the most important things I can tell you is to read. Readers are leaders. Expand your mind. Constantly feed your mind with new information pertaining to what you desire to achieve in life. Now, when I say new information, I don't mean that just came out today or someone just created. I'm talking about from the old wisdom, from the books that have been written for hundreds of years. Even if you go back to the Bible or the Quran, those are books of wisdom that tell you how to operate the human individual, which is you, which is what they did not teach us in school. Not sure why, but I know big business wants workers. They don't want free thinkers. The government wants people who conform. And there's nothing wrong with conformity to a certain degree. Of course, we all want to conform to the laws of the highway. When I'm driving down the road and there's cars coming down the other side of the road, I want them to stay in their lane. I want them to conform to the rules of the road. And that makes me think about faith. How many people say, I have no faith? Have you ever thought you don't have any faith? You actually do, because you have faith that all those people on the other side of the road are going to keep their cars straight and they're not going to come across the midsection and hit you. You believe. You have faith. So you do have faith. Maybe you don't have faith in a power greater than yourself. But think about this. You didn't have to consciously make yourself breathe last night. You didn't have to regulate all the food that you ate to go to every part of your body and distribute the vitamins and minerals to keep your body healthy. No, you didn't have to do that. There was a part of you that did all that for you. Do you have to think about every breath that you take? No, you don't. Do you have to decide when it's time for the food to pass out of your system and go to the bathroom? No. All that's done for you. All you have to do is to cooperate with what your body and your mind tells you what to do. Not that conscious part that tries to figure everything out, but that unconscious, intuitive part that many times we don't listen to. We're not taught to listen to it. We're not taught anything about that. If anything, we're taught that imagination is kind of in the way of school, that you shouldn't be imagining things. But yet everything that's created on this earth by man was first created in the imagination of man. Then again, my question is this: why? Why don't we teach our children how to use this imagination, how our body and our mind intertwines and works together? Why don't we teach that? Is it a conspiracy? I'm not much of a conspiracy type guy, but I don't think so. I think it's out of ignorance, or I don't know. Sometimes it does kind of make sense, because the people in charge, do they really want you and I and everyone else to be free thinkers? To realize that we have so much potential that we don't have to follow the narrative of big business, of the big companies, of the government? Governments like to control. And we need control a lot of times because we have a lot of people who were never taught how to control themselves. I'm all for having policemen. We have not reached a level of consciousness yet, and it may be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 years. We have not reached that level where people have learned self-control. So many people allow their emotions to overcome their logic. I've done that before in my life. I'm guilty of that. We all are. So we haven't reached a level of consciousness where we can live without having certain government entities to maintain order. All these things are necessary. I remember a while back they were talking about defund the police. Well, if you live in the West here and you've never lived in a third world country where they don't have enough police, you don't know how dangerous it is. You have to live with bars on your windows, metal doors. When you lock your house at night, there's nothing outside that anybody can take, because they will take it. And they can't get into your house unless they have a torch or a battering ram or a tank to break through the walls. And that's the way it is when you live in third world countries with not enough police, much less no police whatsoever. I can sit here, I can leave my door unlocked during the day, which I do. At night we lock the doors. I have windows here. If someone wants to get in your house, if you don't have bars on your windows, they can break right in. But we live in an illusion here in the U.S. Well, I've got my house locked up. The windows are locked. Nobody can get in. They'll just break a window. It's just that simple. I've seen people with 2 or 3 locks on their doors with windows. It's amazing. People have this consciousness or this mindset that that's safe. It's only safe because of the government entities, the police, that give us the protection and keep people that want to break in thinking that if they do, they might get caught. Were there no police, it would be a dangerous place to live. But if you've never lived in a place like that, you don't understand it because you don't have any contrast. If you grow up in a neighborhood where the grass is perfect, the houses are all in a row, the trash cans get taken out and then brought back in, so they're not sitting out on the sidewalk all week until the trash man comes again. I mean, I've been in neighborhoods where the trash cans are so clean that they're just like, I mean, they're not dirty. Well, I'm here to tell you, all neighborhoods aren't like that. if you get out in the world, and I tell you, you should travel, because the world is very diverse and different from what it is here in the West. I mean, we have neighborhoods here in the West where I wouldn't want to go after dark. And how would those neighborhoods become if we had no police to police them? Sure, we have policemen that are corrupt. We have painters that are corrupt. We have politicians that are corrupt. We have sheet metal workers that are corrupt. We have factory workers that are corrupt. We have carpenters that are corrupt. Yes, we have corruption in all aspects of life because of the way of the level of consciousness our society and people are. But it doesn't mean that everyone is like that. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, or don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. The biggest majority of police start to become police because they want to serve society and they want to protect people. Some get corrupted, but if you had to walk in their shoes and deal with what they have to deal with every day, you may become the same. Don't judge people unless you've walked a mile in their shoes. I'd say walk a couple miles in their shoes. It's easy for us to look down our nose at other people. But I'm getting way off topic, and I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to thank you for joining me. And remember, you can educate yourself. What is it that you love to do? What is it that you want to do? Don't tell yourself you can't do it or you can't afford it. Don't line up reasons why you can't do it. You can do anything you desire to do. You were born with certain desires and you have the ability to fulfill those desires. The only thing that stops you is you, your level of consciousness, your belief in yourself, and this can be manipulated, changed. You can change that. You don't know what to do, where to start? Pick up a book, start reading, ask a question, find someone who's doing it. Find someone who's heading in that direction. Watch them. Ask them questions. Most people who are successful are more than willing to help you be successful, to offer suggestions and ideas. And when they see you using these ideas, taking their suggestions, they have no problem helping you with more suggestions, giving you more ideas, because they understand the law of life that by helping you, it helps themselves. They've come to the point where they know that by giving is how they get. That whatever they want in life, they must help other people get what they want. Like Zig Ziglar says, you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And I'm going to wrap it up here. Take care. Have a great day. Thanks for listening. Share this with a friend if you think it will be of value to them.